Very
Okay,
good.
welcome everybody to another interview. This time, another supporting organization called the 100 Mile Club, and I'm fortunate to be joined by BJ Walker. Please tell me about yourself and something not a lot of people would know, even those that might know you pretty well.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm BJ Walker, Billie Jean, actually. I go by BJ, and I'm the National Program Manager with 100 Mile Club. And two quick things that are just personal that not a lot of people know. I have an old thing and a new thing. How's that? Old thing is one of my favorite things growing up, and that I did was rodeo. I loved rodeo. I ran barrels, roped, and that was just a fun thing. I grew up in New Mexico, so it was kind of a part of life.
Perfect.
That was my fun thing. Don't do that anymore. And one of my fun things that I truly enjoy right now is metal work. I emboss and deboss metal, and that's kind of my little outlet. So,
wow. And is this just a personal pet project, or do you like sell, use Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or some other?
Yeah. It's more just for fun, but I'm kind of in the middle of the two. I've been at a couple of like little specialty shops, and I've had product there. And so I've done a teeny bit, but I'm not on Etsy or anything that much.
Okay.
I don't have time. So, but I have had fun with it.
You want it, yes. You want it to be a hobby that you enjoy, not something that turns into another job.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, tell me about the 100 Mile Club and how they support the active school environment.
Okay. I think as well as many of our other active school organizations, we not just support it, but that's what we're about, is an active school environment. We challenge kids, and we started as a school-based program, and that's how we've grown over the 30 years since we were founded by an educator, special ed teacher, Carol Lubin, began our program 29 years ago. Next year we'll be celebrating 30 years.
Wow.
Starting it as a school base. Yeah. So it's to challenge the kids to walk or run or roll. It can be adaptable as needed, 100 miles during a school year. And the hope and the goal is to have hopefully daily, but at least weekly consistent movement and activity. And that is done simply with the challenge of those 100 miles throughout the year. So that we see that as being very usable and adaptable on a very regular basis. Not to completely cover the PE hours or time, but to be a physical activity that supports the PE requirements.
Okay. So I'm assuming then your target audience could be anywhere, before, after school, recess, breaks during the school day, if classroom teachers want to get a couple laps in of some kind.
Absolutely. And that's you kind of described it in a nutshell right there. We do have programs at a school that are like a club, organized like a club, and there may be 20 kids involved for the whole school. And there's other schools that will have the full school involved, and it's part of just their daily involvement and activity. And we've had one school that has 1,200 kids involved, that really does have that whole range, but it's the same program and the same spirit of the program, even though it may look very different from site to site.
Sure. And if the school is interested in becoming part of this, how would they do that?
Our website's a great resource to look at for some good basic information and to learn about it. Certainly calling us even directly and visiting with us. We're happy to share any details, answer questions and such. The registration itself there is no cost to join 100 Mile Club. Okay. So the program, you register, and a registered school, then the person that registers becomes what we call head coach. So sometimes that coach word gets a little confusing, but that's the wording we've used. And so that head coach who registers, he or she will have access to everything that we have just for our registered schools. And so there's a great deal of information, as well as downloadable information and such. And so after registering and implementing the program, there are ways to run the program along a spectrum. There's really kind of 4 different ways, and it's everything from running it truly free at a full no cost for the whole year, all the way to utilizing our incentives, our tangible incentives. So the free program uses downloadable incentives like certificates and cards and information in that way, as well as ideas of how to celebrate milestones at no cost. And then we do have incentives, and that's kind of the core of our program, is utilizing the incentives. And we have packets that are $3, $10, or $15 during the school year. So kind of that's our spectrum there, our broad range.
Okay, that's great. And are there additional resources you mentioned, like once you become that coach, there's additional information that people could download? Is that to support maybe some of the health benefits or the pacing guidelines, or how to run, or the benefits of running, and anything along those lines?
Yes, 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 and yes. It
And yes,
does
yes, yes,
include
yes.
all of those.
Okay.
Kind of the core, and it actually can be updated with COVID as well, but we're kind of waiting to see what that looks like. But we have had what we call a program guide. And so it's like 100+ pages that are how to run the program, and just kind of chapter by chapter. You can just go to a certain chapter if it's how to track miles, or community events, or how to display, posters and ideas in your classroom. So the program guide is very detailed and complete of how to run a program. And then in addition to the program guide, which is really the how-to, we do have other resources, everything from the website and blogs with different ideas, information. We just had a blog this last month on fundraising ideas, and actually written by our founder, but who's also a classroom teacher now and a coach, and implementing 100 Mile Club at her school. And she just is brilliant with that, and had some ideas on how to fundraise just for the school, just for the classroom in the school. So we try to have different resources available.
Yeah, it's amazing. And speaking from my own personal perspective, I did something registered and did, like you said, there's a spectrum of what the coach can do and implement. And I had it as a before school and recess program when I was teaching full-time PE, and the students loved it. Like they couldn't wait to get out just to walk or jog or run laps around the playground area that we kind of identified as the track. So it's highly motivating for students. So I appreciate the program that you provide.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be a part of. I became a part of it when my oldest, who's now married and in his 20s and graduated college, etc. But when he was in 5th grade, they had just that year introduced 100 Mile Club to his school and to his classroom. And I fell in love with it because of what it did for him, and the confidence it kind of built with a simple little physical activity, because he is not an athlete. Certainly at that age he really wasn't, but this program worked, and it's so adaptable. It still fascinates me that it was begun by a special education teacher. It actually became adapted to a typical classroom or typical audience. So it's kind of fun that way.
I love it. Yeah. So what is your website?
It's 100mileclub.com. So 100mileclub.com. And we're on the World Wide Web. Is it still that?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
Thank you, Nick. It's great to visit.